There was a time when Bernard Arnault was just a businessman trying to revive a struggling textile company. Today, he is the richest man in the world and the mind behind LVMH, the empire that controls brands like Louis Vuitton, Dior, and Tiffany & Co. His life is equal parts quiet power and extraordinary wealth, and this is what billionaire luxury really looks like. So, how did a quiet French executive come to rule the world of fashion and luxury? Let's start at the beginning. Bernard Arnault didn't inherit a luxury empire, he built one piece by piece. Starting with concrete and construction. In the 1970s, he was working for his father's company, Ferret Savinel, which focused on building materials. Bert Arnault had other plans. He convinced his father to sell off the industrial division and redirect the company into real estate, showing early signs of his ability to steer business with a long view. His move into luxury didn't come from fashion roots, it came from recognizing opportunity. In 1984, Arnault acquired Boussac, a struggling textile group. At first glance, it looked like a bad bet, but buried in that deal was Christian Dior, a brand with a name far more valuable than its current numbers. Arnault quickly restructured the group, sold off the weaker parts, and kept Dior. That decision changed everything. From there, he set his sights on something bigger, LVMH. The late 80s brought a power struggle. LVMH had just been formed through the merger of Louis Vuitton and Moet Hennessy, but internal conflict left the company vulnerable. Arnault quietly bought shares and gained influence, eventually forcing out top executives and taking control. It was a bold, contested move. Some called it ruthless, but it worked. Arnault didn't just win control of LVMH, he turned it into the world's most dominant luxury group. Today, LVMH oversees more than 75 brands. That includes heavyweights like Fendi, Givenchy, Sephora, and more recently Tiffany & Co., which LVMH bought in 2021 for $15.8 billion, the biggest luxury deal in history. The company's market value now exceeds $500 billion, and Arnault himself has topped the list of the world's richest people more than once. But his approach hasn't been about quick wins. He's known for taking his time, learning each brand, and keeping creative control close. Every acquisition fits the bigger picture, strengthening LVMH without watering it down. He's not interested in volume for volume's sake, he wants a legacy, control, and cultural influence. And more often than not, he gets it. Bernard Arnault doesn't live like someone who just made it, he lives like someone who's been at the top for a long time and plans to stay there. His main residence is in Paris, not far from the Champs-Élysées, in a property that reflects the quiet luxury that defines his empire. It's not a house you'd easily spot from the street, there are no flashy gates or modern glass walls, just understated elegance tucked into one of the most powerful neighborhoods in the world. That kind of real estate isn't about showing off, it's about permanence and proximity to power, business, and legacy. In addition to Paris, Arnault owns homes across France that match his lifestyle. In Bordeaux, he has a property that sits in the heart of wine country. It's no accident, LVMH owns several vineyards and luxury wine brands. Owning a home in the region where some of these wines are produced is not just scenic, it's strategic. In Saint-Tropez, one of the most elite beach towns in Europe, Arnault reportedly spends time at a coastal property when the season is right. And in Courchevel, a luxury ski resort in the French Alps, he owns a home designed for quiet retreats in the snow, far from cameras but close to luxury clientele. Then there's the apartment on Allée Saint-Louis, one of the most exclusive residential areas in all of Paris. It's the kind of place where your neighbors aren't celebrities, they're heads of state, heirs to fortunes, or lifelong insiders. The island is small, almost hidden in the middle of the Seine, and homes there rarely go up for sale. Owning property there isn't about space, it's about access. There have also been reports of Arnault-linked properties in London and Los Angeles, though these tend to be held under family trust or discrete entities. With a family that plays an active role in the business, it makes sense to have key homes near major financial and creative hubs. When he travels between these homes or across the world, it's never coach. Arnault flies like a CEO who owns half the fashion industry. Bernard Arnault moves through the world like someone used to controlling the pace, whether he's stepping onto a yacht in Monaco or arriving at a fashion show in Seoul. For years, he traveled aboard a Bombardier Global 7500, one of the most advanced private jets money can buy. But in 2022, he made headlines not for using it, but for ditching it. After a spike in public scrutiny over jet tracking data, including online accounts that monitored his flight paths in real time, Arnault reportedly sold the jet. He didn't stop flying private, he simply started flying smarter. Sources close to LVMH suggest that he now uses chartered flights under corporate entities, keeping his travel private and harder to trace. Discretion seems to be a theme, especially at his level. The same goes for his approach to luxury on water. Arnault owns the Symphony, a 101-meter superyacht built by Fidship. It's not just long, it's outfitted like a floating hotel, complete with a movie theater, pool, and helipad. Unlike many billionaires who flaunt their yachts for paparazzi photos, Arnault rarely discusses his in public. When Symphony docks in places like Saint-Tropez or Venice, it tends to do so quietly with minimal fanfare and plenty of privacy. His travel isn't just for leisure, he's constantly moving for business. Attending store openings in Asia, overseeing brand strategy in Paris, and meeting investors or designers in New York. When LVMH was finalizing its $15.8 billion deal to acquire Tiffany & Co., Arnault was seen frequently flying between Paris and the US, keeping close tabs in negotiations. For him, distance isn't a barrier, it's just part of the logistics. Whether it's the air, the sea, or any city with a luxury footprint, Arnault knows how to arrive without being noticed, and still be the most important person in the room. He's not avoiding attention completely, but he's reshaping how it finds him. Bernard Arnault doesn't just run a business empire, he's building something that looks a lot like a royal dynasty, only with fewer castles and more couture. He's been married to Helene Mercier, a Canadian concert pianist, for decades. She mostly stays out of the public spotlight, but their partnership is clearly rooted in balance. His role is corporate boardrooms and acquisitions, hers is classical music and performance. Together, they've raised 5 children, all of whom are now embedded in the machinery of LVMH. Each child has a role and none of them are sidelined. Delphine Arnault, the eldest, was named CEO of Dior in 2023, making her one of the most powerful women in luxury fashion. But she didn't just inherit the role, she spent years working at Louis Vuitton and has been on LVMH's board since her early 30s. People in the industry know she's sharp, serious, and more hands-on than many expect from someone with her last name. Antoine Arnault handles the company's image and communications. He's been involved with Berluti and was formerly CEO of LVMH's holding company, LVMH Image and Media. His job is less about designing shoes and more about shaping how the world sees the entire group, which includes brands like Fendi, Loewe, and Celine. Then there's Alexander, who has been managing Tag Heuer, a brand that's leaned into younger markets and digital campaigns under his watch. His brother Frederic is at Remova, the luxury luggage brand that's been making moves with collaborations from Off-White and Supreme. Their youngest sibling Jean is still working his way through the ranks, but has already started appearing in executive settings. What's clear is that this isn't just a family with money, it's a family being positioned to take over every angle of the business. Bernard hasn't said outright who will lead LVMH when he steps down, but insiders have speculated for years. The structure he's built allows each child to control their own lane, but they're all orbiting the same core strategy: keep the family in control. And when it comes to appearances, Bernard may not chase the spotlight, but the brands he owns are everywhere. Bernard Arnault doesn't chase the spotlight, but when he's in it, everything about him is intentional. You won't catch him in loud patterns or oversized logos. His style is quietly exact. Usually dressed in a sharply tailored navy or charcoal suit, he sticks to what works. No frills, no flash. It's the kind of look that doesn't try to impress, but still commands a room, especially when paired with the weight of his last name and everything it represents in the luxury world. His real public expression isn't through fashion, it's through art. In 2014, he opened the Louis Vuitton Foundation in Paris, a contemporary art museum designed by Frank Gehry. The building itself looks like a floating glass ship in the Bois de Boulogne, and it's one of the most striking modern structures in the city. But Arnault didn't just build a museum for appearances, it's filled with pieces from his own private collection and rotating exhibits from artists around the world. The space itself reflects how he sees cultural power. Something lasting, elegant, and tied to real vision. Arnault is a serious collector. His collection includes works by Jean-Michel Basquiat, Damien Hirst, and Picasso, among others. These aren't bought for shock value or trend, they're chosen with the same precision he brings to brand acquisitions. Each piece is part of a larger ecosystem, art that can live within the brands he owns or lend weight to the cultural image of the LVMH group. Even when he does attend public events, it's calculated. He's a fixture at Paris Fashion Week, often seated in the front row at Dior, Louis Vuitton, or Givenchy shows. Not for attention, but to quietly observe how the next season is shaping up. He also appears at art fairs like Art Basel, not to socialize, but to stay present in the circles that shape both taste and value. Arnault doesn't post selfies or drop quotes on Instagram, he lets the brands, the buildings, and the art speak for him. In a world obsessed with personal branding, his approach feels old school, but it works. His presence is felt even when he says very little. Bernard Arnault doesn't just make noise, he makes moves. Quietly, steadily, and almost always with long-term control in mind. For years now, he's hovered at or near the top of the global rich list, often trading places with Elon Musk for the #1 spot. His net worth regularly climbs past $200 billion, depending on LVMH's stock price. But unlike many billionaires whose wealth came from a single explosive idea, Arnault built his fortune by acquiring and shaping brands, dozens of them, into a single powerful machine. His approach to business is anything but impulsive. LVMH isn't just a luxury group, it's a tightly woven web of high-end fashion, jewelry, cosmetics, wines, and watches. He buys brands with heritage, builds on what they already do well, and then folds them into the larger LVMH structure without stripping them of their identity. It's the opposite of fast money. Take Dior, which was one of his earliest major acquisitions in the 80s. Rather than rush out new products or chase every trend, he gave it time to rebuild its image, expanded its offerings, and made sure it never lost its sense of exclusivity. During the pandemic, when much of the fashion and luxury world was panicking, Arnault didn't pause. He recalibrated. LVMH ramped up digital sales, leaned into live stream shopping in China, and kept investing in areas that could bounce back faster, like skincare and fragrances. The company also made one of its boldest moves during that time, acquiring Tiffany & Co. for $15.8 billion. While many companies were cutting back, Arnault was still buying, confident that the value of luxury would hold even in uncertain times. What gives him all this power isn't just the brands, it's the structure. Through Groupe Arnault, his family holding company, he maintains tight control over LVMH's voting rights. It ensures that no matter what happens in the public markets, the Arnault family calls the shots. That kind of setup isn't flashy, but it's effective. It protects the empire from activist investors and lets him steer things exactly how he wants. But even with all this control, Bernard isn't immune to public criticism and economic pressure. Bernard Arnault may run the biggest luxury group in the world, but that power hasn't come without controversy. In 2012, he caused public outrage in France when he applied for Belgian citizenship, just as the French government was proposing a sharp increase in wealth taxes. The move looked to many like a billionaire trying to dodge taxes, and even though he later withdrew the application and said he would always remain a French citizen, the damage was done. Headlines ran with it, comedians mocked it, and the public questioned whether someone who benefited so much from France should be looking for a way out. The way LVMH is structured has also drawn criticism. It's a massive network of brands, subsidiaries, and holding companies, many of which are spread across jurisdictions, that don't exactly make it easy to follow the money. Critics have pointed out that while LVMH's image is polished, the corporate machinery behind it isn't always transparent. Arnault hasn't made a habit of explaining how profits move across countries or how ownership is layered. And while nothing illegal has been proven, the lack of clarity invites skepticism. The environmental impact of luxury is another issue that won't go away quietly. The fashion industry as a whole faces increasing scrutiny over waste, overproduction, and carbon emissions, especially from global shipping and jet-setting executives. Even LVMH's shift toward more sustainable branding hasn't shielded Arnault completely. His personal lifestyle, from private flights to super yachts, feels out of step with the kind of climate messaging that many of his brands now promote. Labor practices have also been a flashpoint. While the craftsmanship at houses like Louis Vuitton and Dior is celebrated, not all LVMH production happens in France or Italy. Some goods come from outsourced factories in less visible parts of the supply chain, raising questions about wages, working conditions, and how much control the group really exercises over its full production network. Arnault doesn't speak often about these controversies. When he does, it's usually brief and carefully worded. He lets the brands carry the public image, staying behind the scenes, but that silence doesn't always serve him. In today's world, quiet power can come off as indifference, especially when the stakes are global and growing louder. Bernard Arnault isn't famous in the way most billionaires are. He's not constantly doing interviews or making noise in social media, but the influence he has, especially in culture, is massive. You don't always see him, but you see the effect of his decisions everywhere. Red carpets, storefronts, art museums, even music videos. LVMH brands set the tone for what luxury means today, and they do it without chasing trends. They create them. You'll find LVMH all over the biggest cultural events in the world. At the Oscars, the Met Gala, and Cannes, it's common to see celebrities dressed in Dior, Louis Vuitton, or Givenchy, all brands under Arnault's control. These aren't just fashion moments, they're carefully planned campaigns. So what does it really mean to live at the top, where every brand, building, and brushstroke is part of a legacy? Would you want to live behind the curtain of the world's most powerful luxury empire? Leave your thoughts in the comments below.